Let me ask you a question. What do you think is a good winning percentage for a college quarterback? Some of you may say 70%, 80%, and even 90%. Roughly 15 years ago, a quarterback that goes by the name of Kellen Moore had a winning percentage of 94.34. He is the winningest quarterback in college football history. You want to know what his record was? 50-3. Let me say that again. 50 wins, 3 losses. An even crazier stat about all of this is those 3 losses were by a combined 5 points, 2 of them by 1 point. I don't want to sound too corny when I say this, but all he did was win. Literally. Oh yeah, I can't forget to mention maybe the most impressive part about all this is he was carrying his team to victory. It wasn't like he was just handing the ball off every single play. In his career, he threw for 14,667 passing yards and 142 touchdowns. Not bad. He took great care of the football. He never had over 10 interceptions in one season. You're probably sitting there thinking, well, Matt, if he dominated in college, he must have had a pretty decent NFL stint, right? Unfortunately, that's not the case. What would you say if I were to tell you the same quarterback who went 53 in college failed miserably in the National Football League? I'm not even talking about like, oh yeah, he just wasn't too good. No. It was bad at times. I mean, really bad. So bad, as a matter of fact, you had people saying stuff like this, and this got over 100 likes. Weak arm, horrible release. There's many questions people have been asked about this guy even till this day. But however, it all circles back to the one. And I mean the one big question we're going to try to get to the bottom of in today's video. What really happened to Kellen Moore? Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, hope all of you are having a great day. If not, hope this video can make it a little bit better. Just dropping by real quick to say, number one, we just hit 365,000 subscribers. Major shout out to you guys. Number two, if you have any requests, recommendations for story, documentary videos like this, leave a comment down below. That is all I have to say. I don't got time to waste. You don't got time to waste either. Let's get straight into it. You already know. To get into Kellen Moore's story, we got to throw it all the way back to where things started. Mr. Kellen Moore grew up in the state of Washington, where he would play his high school football for his father, Tom Moore. He played his high school football for Prosser High School, and here's a fun fact about his dad. He won not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4 state championships as a coach. Not bad. When he was growing up, he would fall in love with 2 sports. Football, duh, obviously, because that's what we're talking about mainly, and basketball. He was really good at both of them, and what stood out to a lot of people at a young age is how smart Kellen Moore was. At a young age, when he was at his dad's high school football practices, he wasn't just running around on the sidelines, no. He was soaking it all in, and he was actually drawing up plays as a 10 and 11-year-old. Here's what his dad had to say in regards of him also wanting to watch film. Kellen would always be looking for VHS tapes. My youngsters don't even know what that is. There were these old Chuck and Duck videos, and he'd order these VHS films with college football games. He'd get on this thing called the internet, I didn't know much about it at the time, and he'd look for a video of any quarterback who threw for 400 yards or more. This is also according to his dad. I'm going to read it off word for word. Every spring break, instead of going to Mexico or Disneyland, the Moore family would head to a college campus to watch spring football practice. Montana, Montana State, Eastern Washington, and Central Washington. Anywhere a team was practicing. Kellen Moore would become so good at breaking down film and designing plays, his dad would let him call the plays as a junior in high school. I want you to think about that. I have never heard of a situation or story where a high school junior, not a junior in college, but a junior in high school, is calling his own plays. Incredible. Here's what the team's defensive coordinator had to say about him. He was so accurate and made such good decisions that it was rare to see a ball hit the ground at practice or in a game. He was rarely hitting games because he knew where to go with the ball if he was under any pressure. As a defensive coach, it was a lot more fun for me to watch our offense perform when they were on the field. In his junior year of high school, which was the season 2005 through 2006, he threw for 4,330 yards. He also had, and I can't even believe this is real, 64 passing touchdowns. Insane. I guess you could say his senior year was pretty good as well. He had 4,000 passing yards with 62 touchdowns to only 5 INTs. You would think a quarterback who was dominating high school football like he was would get a ton of D1 offers, but that didn't happen. We can actually count how many offers he had on one hand. 3. That's it. 3 offers. Idaho, Eastern Washington, and last but not least, I'm sure some of you remember Kellen Moore, you know what I'm about to say next, Boise State. His recruiting process was fairly simple. He wanted to go to a school that was going to suit him best, but also put him in a position to succeed and play right away. He thought Boise State would be a perfect fit. Come to find out, it was. He would arrive on campus in Boise, Idaho in the year 2007. There's not anything to say about that season because he redshirted. Fast forward in time into the next year, 2008, he would be named the starting quarterback as a redshirt freshman. You probably don't think anything about that, but back in the day, That was controversial. Back in 2008, it wasn't necessarily common for even redshirt freshmen to be the starting quarterback of any team. People were asking the head coach at the time, Chris Peterson, hey, are we sure this is the guy? And he stuck by him 10,000%, so I got to give him a ton of credit. In Kellen Moore's first college start, he would go 14 for 19 with 274 passing yards with 2 touchdowns to 0 INTs, QBR of 88.2. A couple weeks later, they would play some real competition because I know a lot of people are going to say, well, Matt, they weren't playing anybody. Well, what about this? He played Oregon in his 3rd career start. Not only did he play Oregon, let me clarify, my apologies, that's me disrespecting Kellen Moore. He picked him apart. He went 25 for 37, had 386 passing yards with 3 touchdowns and 1 INT, QBR of 93.3. Moore would continue to play lights out the rest of the season, and next thing you know, you look up, Boise State's 12-0. They're undefeated. They did lose their bowl game to TCU by 1 point, 17-16, rather less. Pretty solid freshman campaign. I think we can all agree on that. Heading into his 2nd year as a starting quarterback with expectations through the roof, he delivered. Started out by beating Oregon again, and they just ran through their cupcake of a schedule. They really didn't even have a close game until, ironically enough, they played guess who? TCU again in the rematch of a bowl game, but this time it was a Tostitos Fiesta Bowl. Number 6-3 ranked Boise State versus number 3 ranked TCU. This time, Kellen Moore and Chris Peterson get their revenge. They win 17-10, and Boise State finishes undefeated 14-0. What about that? Look, I don't care who you play. I don't care if you're playing at your local YMCA. It is hard to win every single game on your schedule. So shout out to Kellen Moore. And you know what I just realized? I didn't show you his stats from his freshman year. My bad. Let's take a look at those, and we'll take a look at his sophomore year as well. Because I know y'all like to look at those, and even for myself, I like looking at them because it's a cool reminder of what college football was like back then. As a freshman, wow, I didn't even know it was this great. He completed 69% of his passes, almost 70, had 3,400 passing yards with 25 touchdowns to 10 INTs. You would like to see him clean up that touchdown-interception ratio, and the next year he would do just that. Like I told you, went 14-0, completed 64% of his passes, had 3,500 passing yards with 39 tutties to, listen to this, wow, this is insane for 2009, 3 interceptions. One of the best touchdown to interception ratios you're ever going to see. Heading into his 3rd season as a starting quarterback in 2010, new year, same story. They would start out with another tough opponent, number 10 ranked Virginia Tech, beat them, and run through their cupcake of a schedule. They beat the Hokies 33-30, also beat top 25 ranked Oregon State 37-24. So they were proving, hey, I know we're not playing as stiff as a competition, but we can beat the big dogs when you give them to us. And I also think there is something to be said about taking care of business, just blowing out Toledo, San Jose State, Louisiana Tech, Hawaii, Idaho, Fresno State, teams like that. Because a lot of times you won't be prepared for those games because Boise State, they know they're better than those guys, but they showed up and they put in the work, so I got to tip my cap to them for that. But heading into their 2nd to last regular season game against Nevada, this was going to be a tough one to win. This game was coming down to the wire. With 9 seconds to go in the 4th quarter, it was tied 31-31. And Kellen Moore throws an absolute bomb to get Boise State down to around the 10-yard line. They call a timeout with 1 second, and their kicker, who was, believe it or not, automatic, misses the chip shot. I mean, guys, this was only a couple yards farther than an extra point. Take a look at this comment. This Boise State team could have won a national title. Moore was the best college quarterback I've ever seen. Always stepped up in the big games. Georgia, Virginia Tech, TCU, etc. And yeah, I got to agree with that. That Boise State team, for 4 years with Kellen Moore operating at the helm, they could beat anybody, and it's not like they could. They proved it. I still can't believe Kyle Brodsman missed the field goal after this miracle play. It cost Boise State the Rose Bowl. At least TCU scooped up the opportunity and won it. This was the best Boise State team. They could have beaten anyone. Not a total shame to lose a game to a team led by Colin Kaepernick, but probably a once in a lifetime, what am I talking about? Once in a program unique opportunity, never to be repeated, just a heartbreaker. If you don't know what happens after it, because you're saying, well, Matt, he missed the field goal, but it was tied 31-31. It goes into overtime, and Nevada wins. Game after that, Boise State bounces back. They crush Utah State, but the year, I hate to say it was a waste, but it kind of was, especially with that loss to Nevada. They played 19th ranked Utah in a bowl game, and they beat the crap out of them 26-3. Kellen Moore wasn't receiving any interest from the NFL after his junior season, so he decided to come back for his senior year. And to start out the year, guess who Boise State got paired up with? I feel like a lot of people have forgotten about this game. Georgia, 19th ranked Georgia at the time. Boise State would beat them handily by double digits, 14 points. Kellen Moore would play almost a flawless game yet again. Only had 6 incompletions, 28 for 34, 260 yards, 3 touchdowns, QBR of 94.4. Impeccable impeccable. The Broncos would cruise to an 8-0 start until they matched up with, I feel like this was Kellen Moore's biggest rival and arch nemesis, the TCU Horned Frogs. You want to know how this game ended? Almost similar to the Nevada one, almost like deja vu. This one was even worse, if you guys ask me. I know the opportunity was a little different for the Nevada one, but this one, whew, it stings. I'm not even a Boise State fan, but the Broncos, they are beating TCU 35-28. TCU scores a touchdown with 1 minute to go, and they decide, all right, we got to go for two. The receiver rips the ball out of the defender's arm. Long story short, they get the 2-point conversion. With 1 minute to go, Kellen Moore leads Boise State down the field, lines him up for a chip shot field goal. He was even centering the ball, and you know what I'm about to say next, right? The kicker misses it. After that heartbreaking loss, Boise State would crush the remaining 4 opponents and finish the year 12-1. If you haven't picked up on it by now, if Kellen Moore had a field goal kicker who could make a chip shot, he would have only had 1 legit loss on his resume. He would have went 55. I mean, my apologies, what am I talking about? 52-1 as a starter. 50-3 is so hard to comprehend. It's almost unfathomable. But 52-1, whew, that's unreal. But, you know, you can play the what-if game all day long for different players, different people. We're not going to do that. Bottom line is Kellen Moore got hosed not once, but twice by his kicker. And it'd be different if it was like a 45-yard field goal. The fact he has 2 losses because his kickers miss 2 20, 25, 30-yard field goals, yeah, that's sad. I digress with that being his senior year. Obviously, he had no choice but to declare for the NFL draft. The Kellen Moore experience at Boise State, it was officially over. You'd probably think that at least some NFL teams would be slightly interested in taking him in the 4th, 5th, 6th, or worst case scenario, 7th round, but no. That couldn't be any farther from the truth. There wasn't one GM or scout who was interested in Kellen Moore. They just didn't care for him. And it's not anything personal, it's just they didn't think he was that good of a prospect or player. It is what it is. There were a bunch of issues with him, but if I had to narrow it down to the 2 biggest ones, one would be his arm strength. We'll talk about that later in this video, a little foreshadowing. Number 2, would you call it his dual threat? Not really dual threat ability, more so of, and we'll just say this, his mobility. He was a statue in the pocket. His 40-yard dash, if you are interested, was a 4.94. Not the best. He was also a smaller guy. Some sites had him listed at 6 foot, but most people believe he's only about 5'11". And then one of the biggest concerns out of them all, he's left-handed. Now, do I think it's fair to say, oh, well, that guy's left-handed, we shouldn't draft him? No, that's not fair, but that's just how the NFL is. They don't like left-handed quarterbacks. With all that being said, he went undrafted in the 2012 NFL Draft. He did get picked up by the Detroit Lions, but nothing happened there. He never played a snap for him. Fast forward 3 years later, in 2015, he would sign a new contract with them, but shortly after, he didn't make the 53-man roster. In our terms, he got cut. In September of 2015, the Dallas Cowboys would pick him up, and he would be the backup after Tony Romo had an injury. And when I say backup, I don't mean to Tony Romo, should have clarified. He was the backup to Matt Castle and Brandon Weeden. By this point in time in his career and story, everyone's like, well, this guy was so good in college. Why is he not getting a chance at the next level? It just doesn't make any sense. Everyone's like, hey, give Kellen Moore a shot. We saw what he did at Boise State. We saw him beat Oregon a couple times. We saw him beat Georgia. And eventually the Cowboys were like, all right, cool. We'll give him a shot. And you can't make it up. In his second career NFL pass, he threw an interception. I actually remember this game, weirdly enough. The Cowboys were beating the Jets 10-9. They were in the red zone, and he threw another terrible interception. When it was all said and done, Moore finished 15 for 25, 158 passing yards, 1 touchdown to 3 interceptions. The following week against the Buffalo Bills, he would make his first career start, and it didn't go too much better. Went 13 for 31, that's under 50%, if you can't do simple math. Had 186 passing yards, 0 touchdowns to 1 INT, QBR miserable 15. The Cowboys would give him one more opportunity to prove himself, and he kind of did. Against the Washington Redskins, yes, they were still the Redskins at the time, he had 435 passing yards. Went 33 for 48, 3 touchdowns to not so good 2 interceptions, and his QBR still not good at all, 19.2. Kellen Moore showed in that final game against the Redskins that he can most certainly hold his own at the next level. But the problem with him is, number 1, he just wasn't consistent, and number 2, he just lacked the arm strength to play at the next level. Very, very weak arm, and also he telegraphed a ton of his passes. That's why he had so many interceptions in the few games played. He was so bad in some people's eyes, they were saying stuff like this. After watching this, I'm thankful for Dak and Romo. Weak arm, horrible release. And a lot of people, they like that comment, so they agree with it. At 133, referring to the mark in the video, worst throw I've seen from a quarterback. So is this the Cowboys' future? Because it looks pretty bleak. Man, his arm is weak. He's better off being the OC than the quarterback. Funny he says that. We'll get to that in just a second. And a lot of people are saying stuff like this. Kellen Moore can be a solid backup for us. I like him. There were more comments like that, I think, at the point, but a lot of people are like, yeah, he could be a good backup, but that's his ceiling. And I agree with that. Moving along, though, in our story, in 2016, Moore would have surgery on his fibula in his right leg, and he missed all the training camp. In 2017, Kellen Moore would re-sign with the Cowboys, got released by him, then re-signed. You know how that process goes. He was just going back and forth, back and forth. In the next year of 2018, this is when he would officially announce he's retiring from football. But this wasn't for some odd reason. This was planned out. It's the equivalent to have another job lined up when you know you're about to quit a different one. Right when he retired, that's when he became the quarterback's coach for guess who? The Cowboys. The season after, in 2019, he would be promoted to the offensive coordinator, and that's where he stayed for a while. That was up until 2023 when he was hired by the Los Angeles Chargers as their offensive coordinator. He was then hired as the new offensive coordinator for the Philadelphia Eagles in 2024. For those of you who don't know, he did win a Super Bowl this year, so congratulations to Kellen Moore. And last but not least, this is the newest of new updates on him. In February 2025, he was hired as the head coach of the New Orleans Saints. So this is his first gig as a head coach. With all that being said, let's talk about the million-dollar question. Why didn't Kellen Moore succeed in the NFL? Do you want the long answer or short answer? Since you can't answer me while I am filming and recording this video, I'll give you both. Short answer, he wasn't that good. That's all there is to it. The long answer is things like he had a weak arm, didn't have great size, stuff like that. But I think there's even more to it we should bring up. Let's also go back to this. May I remind you, he threw for over 400 yards in his second career start in the National Football League. So it's not like he was a scrub-a-dub-dub and was going out there laying a complete egg. No, he showed flashes of, dare I say, greatness. Yeah, we'll go with that. I think another problem with this is nobody viewed him as a franchise quarterback, and a big part of succeeding, whether it be in the NFL or the NBA, is getting that right opportunity. A lot of guys, unfortunately, don't get a lot of great opportunities, and I think one thing that held him back is he was an undrafted guy. Why is that a big deal? Because when teams aren't paying you $50 million per year, your leash is extremely small, and when they don't have skin in the game, and when I say skin in the game, I'm referring to money invested in you, they don't care about you. They're not going to give you a lot of chances and opportunities as if you were a first or second round pick. Let's be honest for a second. Every single rookie quarterback in their first 3, 4, 5, 6 starts outside of CJ Stroud that one year is throwing 1 to 2 interceptions per game. Remember Peyton Manning as a rookie? Didn't he have like 20 plus interceptions in that one season? So compared to other people and other rookies, he was right on track. This isn't college. NFL, it's a different beast. You're going to take your lumps whether you like them or not. So what are you trying to say, Matt? If he got picked up by the right team, he was in the right offensive system, right offensive coordinator, he could have flourished and been a starter in the NFL for 3, 4, 5, 6 years? Yeah. That's what I am telling you. It's a possibility. I think if he got that perfect opportunity like a Brock Purdy, there might have been something there. But it would have had to been a perfect and ideal situation, and it didn't happen. But it's not like this story isn't in a sad way. He just became a head coach, his life, his career. Some would argue and say it's at an all-time high, and this is what he's meant to be doing. We're talking about the same young man who was designing plays and drawing plays as a 10 and 11-year-old, and his dad, as a high school football coach, was allowing him to call plays as a junior in high school. I think coaching outside of playing football is his other biggest passion out there, and I'm wishing him the best of luck. To Kellen Moore, if you're seeing this video, wishing you the best of luck, brother. Hope you continue to see a lot of success in your career. And yeah, that's really it for this video. Many more things I can say. We're going to end it off here. Let me know your thoughts down below. But